So thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking up time and being part of this conversation today. So basically, the idea of Autocar Professional Autodesk CXO Roundtable is to discuss the challenges and opportunities in the EV space right now. There's a very evolving space and a lot of newcomers, a lot of promising newcomers like you. And so we want to discuss about what challenges you're facing being newcomers, and there's a lot of requirement for big investments, and unlike the established players, legacy players who have a lot of cash with them, your situation might be different. So that is the whole idea, to understand your journey in this space and to learn more about you, and amongst yourselves to learn from each other's experience. So that is what we're going to discuss in this roundtable today. Welcome once again, and I have here with me my colleague Mr. Ketan Thakkar, who is the editor of Autocar Professional, and Mr. Detlef Reschneider, who is from Autodesk. He's the Senior Director of Business Strategy for Design and Manufacturing. So with that, Ketan, I'll let you...
Yeah, between all three of us, we'll try and dip into your passion, your drive to get into the electrical business, which is very dynamic. There are a lot of reasons why you are in this space. We'd like to first get to know your story as to what drove you into this space, what are the prospects, what are the challenges. I'd like to begin first, Mr. Sardesai, right at the bottom end, which is the bicycle, and you've electrified that. You mentioned that you have your own batteries as well. Why don't you tell us, what got you into this space, and what's a differentiator for you, and what's the road ahead that you expect?
In CXO Mobility, we are into electric cycles. We are trying to go to the masses where we see our product as affordable, as well as it's a product which is of aspiration. So we have electric cycles which are giving you a mileage of 100 kilometers in a single charge. Specifically for the cargo segment, we talk about 20 minutes delivery, 30 minutes delivery, and commuting through this traffic conditions is what our cycle does, and it's helping a lot of gig workers. And most important thing is it's helping the women empowerment as well. Challenges, yes, we've seen a lot of the industry getting things from China and assembling it in India. We specifically had manufactured the electric cycle in India, and we had a specific problem of the batteries. We've heard of, I didn't want to mention it specifically here, so we started manufacturing our own batteries so that we have a control over the entire ecosystem. And today we can proudly say that yes, our cycles are successfully running on the road.
Yeah. Hemant, you're part of RR Global Group. You are a young entrepreneur. I mean, your family business is into a lot of different electrical space. What got you into this space? And when you got into the space, I mean, yes, the sector was, you're seeing a lot of action. There was a lot of excitement towards electrification. What gave you that belief that you can come into this space and be a differentiator and be part of many who are vying for that zero emission industry?
Right. So see, this is a great space to be in. 1,75,000 crore space of two-wheeler, a large industry, shifting from a petrol to EV, and we are certain that because of the green or savings around it, I think there's going to be a very, very shift, and we're all seeing it. And we identified that in 2018 or 2019, and we took some years to do some market research that what are the low-hanging fruits in this space itself, right? So I think one of the low-hanging fruits which we could see that was the scooter, and that's what we are into. Of course, there were buses because there were other cargo three-wheelers were there. But what drives us to be in two-wheeler, why not others, was we like B2C segment. Okay, that's what we do as a group. We like B2B2C, where the distribution dealership comes around, and we are manufacturers. We understand supply chain, manufacturing, and product development. So a great combination of manufacturing, supply chain with distribution dealership and brand. Okay, and that to a such large sector, making a shift. So the room to enter, and whenever we believe that whenever the market becomes more fragmented, the number of players get more opportunity to be part of it. I think it's a great space to be in, and I think we are doing decent.
Right, fantastic. Viresh, if I could bring you in, again, a very unique space. What's the right to win for you in this space? There are many friends like Hemant in the market. And what differentiates you? How differently are you approaching your entry?
Yeah, no, I think what Hemant said, part of it is very, very true, that there is a fundamental shift in an industry which is more than a century old happening. And hence we see a lot of new players coming in. And we personally believe we will also see a lot of new forms of vehicle coming in, which is we understand as category divergence. So we don't see moving from a petrol or a diesel powertrain to electric as just changing the powertrain, but rather also looking at form factors that were not really possible or economically viable because of packaging or many other reasons. We see them being possible today. So I think everybody will talk about how people are not taking things from China. We took two things from China. One is inspiration, how to build products. And second is we saw, because they have been ahead of us in the electric vehicle adoption curve, we saw how their adoption happened over past decades. So we believe India will follow not like Western countries, US or Europe, but maybe like China, with the similar demographics, similarly crowded cities. We believe we will grow in a certain way, and small electric cars are the way in which cities will have a more sustainable future.
Right.
So as a company, Wave Mobility is right-sizing the personal mobility, and our focus is on building purpose-built electric vehicles, which I already said, and break the stigma, which I think a lot of Indian legacy players have, that less than a 5-seater family car will not sell in India. Our wait list says something completely 180 degree opposite, that there is a huge demand for 2-seater vehicles in India, given that they have all the modern features and comfort. So you don't make a bare shell product. You need to have everything from a sunroof to an Android Auto connected tech, but just make it in the right space. So that's our first play, and more vehicles to follow in times to come.
Right. Sumit, I mean, thanks to your presence, Tata Motors was able to, get into the EV space with the CESL order, EESL order, or whatever you may call it. Because of them, you gave them wings to fly. You've been around for 7 years, and you're going to be powering their small commercial vehicle as well. How's been the journey so far, and what different is it going to take for this sector to be viable, which is going to call for a lot of money, a lot of cash? So,
yeah, I mean, absolutely. So the journey so far has been good. I mean, in terms of having started the journey with Tata Motors, we obviously take pride in calling ourselves pioneers in this space. But having said that, we also saw that technology evolved very fast from what we started with for Tata Motors to what they are or where they are today. Therefore, it is a space where what works today may not work tomorrow.
right.
And we've got to keep pace with that. And remember, there's going to be headwinds on the price fluctuations, which are going to always knock off the tailwinds that we want to always have in place for you to kind of fly seamlessly. But so far so good. I mean, we've done close to about 6,000+ of Tata Tigors in the last few years, although we look now to have this number be out of the blue, but that's goes to the point that Hemant was trying to make. I mean, what the ability to scale in 2 wheels is far most the biggest.
Right.
And I mean, it's a known fact that we are owned and promoted majorly by Mr. Tata. So he always felt as though 2-wheelers are not the safest of the bets when it comes to urban mobility for that matter. So therefore, he was always very conscious of we starting in 4-wheelers, and therefore that kind of automatically trims down our ability to scale. But having said that, the kind of journey that Tata Motors through this Electron architecture showed to the entire world, that's a story which is worth emulating, which is actually giving a lot of wings to a lot of players who want to be in that space. So yeah, I mean, now today we're also powering Tata Ace EV, which has done close to about 6,000+ vehicles in the last just about a year. and it's slated to grow even further. They're going to come out with the next version of the 1 ton.
Right.
Although it started off with the 750 kilograms of payload, it's going to go into a 1 ton payload very, very soon. And I think, given where we are today, outside of Tata Motors, we're working today with at least 12 projects, which are going to see the light of day in the next 6 to 9 months.
So there's a lot of action, there's a lot of
A
demand.
lot of action, and then not just in the sectors that we all come from today, but also in off-highway sectors. We're working on projects in tractors. We're working in space on excavators. We did the very first excavator for Tata Hitachi, which was completely made in India. In fact, it's getting tested as a POC, but it's getting tested today. And many more like that are in the making and
Right.
making. So great journey, but we've still got to be conscious of the kind of realities that we have to keep in mind.
It's early
It's not
learning
going to be
stage.
smooth sailing like everybody wants it to be, but it's exciting. It's good to see young people kind of fueling this startup culture. I mean, I was just talking to somebody 2 days back about brain drain. Everybody from US, everybody's having the FOMO moment, fear of missing out, and everybody wants to come to India. India has become the hotbed, and it's so glorious to see our generation getting to see that. So that's the excitement that we all are a part of, and I wish this kind of fuels the aspiration that we all are into this for. So good days ahead, I guess.
Right. Very well said. Let me bring you in again. A very unique concept. I mean, clearly, proof of concepts are, different kind of form factors. As Nilesh also mentioned. I mean, again, a very unique concept. What got you into the space, and why do you think people will choose you?
So we also operate on a principle of right-size mobility, but just in the cargo space. So I have a commercial vehicle background. So during that, when I interacted with dealerships and also the customers who are coming to dealerships, we also found that there's a huge gap in the market, in Indian market, and all the two-wheeler dominant market, especially Southeast Asian markets. So there is basically a huge gap between a TVS heavy duty and a TRJ. So of course, there are a lot of local solutions available. Say Gujarat has a local solution, Chennai has a local solution, but they are not organized, they are not safe, and they are also not scalable. So what we understood that is there's a huge market potential, there's a huge wedge market, just like how Tata is slotted in between an overloaded three-wheeler and utilized four-wheeler. The same wedge market we have observed in between these two. So we operate in the space of micro commercial vehicles through the reverse strikes, the small vehicles. It has been initially we were very we were having a lot of fear on how it will be accepted, but after a lot of closed loop drives with customers, a lot of surveys, we understood that for a customer, what they need is just a solution and the right benchmark that has to be set with the initial product. So we spent a lot of time in fine-tuning the right spec, because typically these reverse strikes are quite popular in the European market.
Okay.
But at a 50 kg payload variant, more like e-pedal assisted cycles. That bringing that layout in India and keeping it ready for Indian market is a big challenge. Was a big challenge for us. But I think there's a lot of market acceptance for a person who's going through the problem. So yeah, that's basically what we are doing.
It's again a fantastic concept. I mean, right from 2 wheels to 3 wheels to 4 wheels, there are many concepts, and I mean, Indian consumers definitely going to drive different kind of mobility. Coming to you, Kapil, I mean, I would be wrong to say that you are a veteran amongst the startup, right from your college days, building a fast motorcycle and still at it and doing the hard yards, hitting scale now. How's been the journey for you so far? And in this sort of, tremendous action, keeping yourself as a differentiator definitely must be a challenge. So your journey and what are the prospects and challenges that you see?
So I think luckily we are born out of passion. We are not born out of an Excel sheet. So we started. So I generally started building electric motorcycles for myself, and then when you build a fast one, you want to race. So my logic was to go to a racetrack and race. So we were having fun. I worked as a CTO for a Chinese company for 2 years. Learned a lot from them, how to build motorcycles faster and all that. Whenever I used to come back to India, the basic fundamental problem that I saw was everybody was trying. This is 2010, 13, 14.
14, exactly, yeah.
People were only selling 25 kilometers per hour electric scooters, which would not excite me.
Right.
And also, even if you build a fast scooter, a motorcycle guy is a motorcycle guy. So I'm a hardcore motorcycle. So I realized if you could build a motorcycle for the masses in India, where 70% people actually travel on a motorcycle. Usually men are working, 95% people in India who are working are male. So they would want to travel further. And then when you look at all these aspects, you generally decide and say, oh, let's solve for the biggest problem. And the biggest problem seems to be transportation for people who earn 25,000-30,000 rupees. And they don't want to spend too much money on fuel, and let's say maintenance. The form factor that we found out was, or we love, is motorcycles. And India is like a continent. You're not, everybody centralized in the city today thinks about the city. Go 20 kilometers away from a city and you'll realize there are very hardly good roads. You need larger wheels, you need better brakes. So all this eventually comes down to a motorcycle, which has been there for last 30-40 years. So we're not reinventing that. The only reinvention that we sort of tried to do or implement was, why can't we build technology? I have been working on this for long.
Yes.
So there was no technology in India. So we built our own motors, axial flux motors. We built our own battery packs. We started building everything ourselves, looking at a problem statement and saying, if an Indian consumer wants to travel, let's say 200 kilometers daily for 5 years, then the motorcycle has to survive, the batteries have to survive, the drivetrain has to survive. And this created like a vertically stacked problem that we kept on solving. That's why we are here. And I think at now, where are we? We are producing motorcycles. Bharat Forge so he's there, Bharat Forge is our investor. And we've been at it. Build the factory. So back end हमने पूरा कर लिया. So everybody starts at the front end.
Right.
I think we reverse started. We did the factory first, then the dealers. Now we are starting to grow faster.
So it's time to take off.
Yeah, I think it's a very fundamental time to, let's say, grow. I won't say take off. You just have to be, India is a continent, you have to be in all the parts of the world. Various cities solve their problems. There are unique problems in cities and states that you just have to solve.
Right, lovely. Let me bring you in, Parikshit, again, a performance packing company. Again, a wide space. I mean, just a couple of days back, we were in Bangalore and we were talking to Ranjita from Aura Energy, and how she passionately spoke about the space being a very unique space. What got you guys in, and what is the differentiator? Why do you think people will choose Kabira over some of the other alternatives available in the market?
You see, the founders of this company, they started tinkering with the idea about getting EV mobility from very small like cycles and all. And over the period of a time, we decided that our target audience is between 18 to 30.
The young India.
It's a young India. So what does young India want? So when we saw the entire demographics, we want like at low cost, the one which gives high mileage, and the one which charges up fast, and one with a style. So that is how, with the vision in our mind, we started designing our bikes, and that's how we came up with the super bikes which both the males and females can ride. And we try to bring the best of all the worlds by getting Foxconn to design our powertrain for us.
Fantastic.
So now we can say that the bikes have come up in a very good manner. We took our first batch out about 2 years back into the market, collected all the things which were turning out to be a problematic for bikes on Indian roads, and we resolved all those times. We took our time to settle down, make our bike perfect, and now we have come up with generation 2 bikes, and now we are ready for mass manufacturing and to cater to the customer.
Let me bring you in, Prasad. I mean, you've been part of legacy companies in the past, and you were one of the top 100 influencers, if I'm not wrong, rated recently. So help me understand this transition from ICE to EV, and you're helping Matter do a geared motorcycle, and what do you see the road ahead prospects, and why do you think you are very different?
To start with, I think my journey with, let's say, the Tata, there's a Tata Mahindra in everyone in India, right? When you go to automotive side. So I'm sure, Sumit and Kishan will also agree, getting a EV or electronics ecosystem up in any of these OEMs is actually running a startup by itself, to be very frank. Even if you are in a very established, organizations too. So in general, what I would say is this 2 decades of experience has been grooming EVs in bigger OEMs too.
Wow.
And then coming to here. So, I mean, I remember the conversations that we used to have when I was leading the team, which was acquiring Reva,
Right.
to where we are now. I think there's a paradigm shift in terms of how the technologies are looked at.
Right.
Right? I mean, when you look at what you essentially look at as a solution,
Right.
the conversations used to always start and stop with powertrains,
Right.
energy, but it was never a mobility solution that we are talking about. When you're looking at customer, we can't just go and say, buy EVA, itna hi karega. I mean, you have to really understand that Indian customer base is really aspirational.
And demanding as well.
And
Very
demanding. So there is enough space. And even for Kapil, Prasad, Nilesh, Sumit, for everyone in this market, I think that's the biggest strength. I agree with Nilesh, both India and China bring in terms of the volume of customer base that we have. And in true sense, I think India is the country which can be called a United States of India, right? In terms of the demographics, the diversification of needs that come in.
Right.
So I think this was an inspiration for us at Matter too. Me, Mohal, Arun, and Sharan, when we sat together, how do you deliver an unapologetic mobility solution, and how does it actually get your performance, reliability, safety, security also, right? And it then comes, when you look at trying to solution this for customer, there is no other way than actually building it up, grounds up, and that's where 5 years of our time has been spent, and in building a team, building a platform. Now we are ready to launch multiple products, because once you get your platforms right, the product development cycle essentially becomes very manageable.
Right.
Okay, I would not say easy, manageable is the right word there. And I think that's the journey that we have been. And we've given enough opportunity and thought to actually look at COVID as an opportunity too, even in terms of semiconductor market, where many people have been thinking about semiconductors as a supply crunch.
Right.
Whereas we worked very closely with our partners who have been, give us enough space, because there's a lot of analog digital integration that's possible in terms of
Absolutely.
how the products can be re-envisioned when you look
Right.
at the powertrain systems too. And the non-powertrain part of it too, the remaining electronic controls too, there's huge opportunities there.
Right, true that. Let me bring you in, Uday, youngest amongst all, and your company as well. 2021 is when it was founded. Definitely, you have so many customers sitting right in front of you. Help us understand your journey, and what are the prospects that you see in this, thriving space, which is going to become bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So actually, when we were in college, so we were a part of Formula student teams. So in Formula student teams, there is a competition called Formula Student in Germany, and in various countries it is there. So we have to develop basically a race car prototype, and we have to race it on a German racetracks and various other countries
Wow.
as well. So what we have to do is there is basically a design contest in that, costing bomb contest is there, and then there's a track contest. So the engineers from various domains, from Volkswagen groups and all, they basically test what we have made. So we have to just take the engine. They have specific requirements that this is the maximum CC limit you can go, and you have to design everything on your own, the braking system, the telematic system, everything. So from the college days only we used to work on that projects. After graduating from the college, our founders basically worked in various domains, including Michelin's. I worked in ARAI. So we worked in, and we have seen that the change that is going from engines to electric vehicles. So we sat one day and we thought that we have such experience in building a vehicle, so we should develop an electric motorcycle for the market, as everyone was approaching the vehicle market, two-wheeler market, right?
Right.
So we started developing, and we started calculating all the things that we need. But when we approached the market, so what are the specifications we needed? We were not getting that custom made according to our specifications. So most of the OEMs are either saying that we have this in line, either you take this, either you pay 1 crore plus of development fees, which we didn't have.
So you decided to make yourself.
So our one of the co-founders had already experience in developing motors from past 4 years. So we got him in and we started developing motors. So as we started developing motors, we started doing multiple iterations, and we also faced one more challenge, was testing areas. So we
Right.
didn't had access to maximum testing areas, testing facilities, and the testing facilities which were there are very expensive. We were not funded that time. So we collaborated with one of the testing facilities, and they started. We built a power supply for them, and they helped us in return to let us test all the motors that we are making.
What testing agency was that?
So it was Inspired Control Systems.
Okay, interesting.
So generally they also needed power supply for EV testing. So power supply was costing around 25 lakhs. We built that same power supply in 5 lakhs. So similarly we started iterating, and after that last year only we got 4 patents on the motors, and we got a maximum efficiency of 97%. Then we understood that this problem is faced by every other two-wheeler or new OEM who is entering the market.
Correct.
Right. So we shift our focus from motors and controllers, so from vehicle to motors and controllers.
Right.
So then
big opportunity.
Yeah. So then we started approaching the clients and OEMs. So we were getting some OEMs who are based out of India only, but selling in South African countries and all, where there is not much regulatory requirement of certifications and all. But still we gone through AIS 041 certifications and all, and we proved our product. So the one of the OEMs only gave us the example that just by replacing our motors and controller, he got 25 kilometers of more range. So similarly, we got to know that this is the issue with every other OEM in the market.
So big opportunity for you.
Yeah. So then we diversified our market to defense sectors, and we have started batch production for defense sector as well.
Fantastic.
We
In 3 years.
Yeah. So we got funding last year only. We set our own EV prototype lab. We have our own dyno facility, and we set our own team, which are working on. So we are currently working on neodymium magnets, which are rare earth magnets, which we obviously have to import.
Right.
But we are simultaneously working on other technologies as well, which we can work on without magnet as well. So the motors
Fantastic.
can work without magnets. It is not SRM or something like that, but it is something new which we are working
This is
on.
truly Make in India. I mean, we need localization. We need companies like you to come on the scene so that you become suppliers to many. Mr. Kohli, if I can bring you in, you've been part of one of the largest auto component groups, and like you mentioned earlier, 2018 is when you decided to kind of diversify into electrification space. Unlike the startups, I mean, there's backing of a big group, but help me understand the driving factors and how differently are you approaching this space vis-a-vis the legacy components that you make otherwise for ICE vehicles?
No, yeah, thank you. So firstly, thanks for having me here. Happy to be here, part of this group. For Bharat Forge, which is the holding company, Kalyani Group, I think mentioned 2018 was the first invest that we made, but 17 is where we took the strategic decision that if there is this trend where the market from ICE will move to other technologies and EV will be one of the near term. So that is where 2018 we made the first investment, and this was actually early on where market was still trying to really test various technologies and how the adoptions will happen. Even at national level, there were discussions in early stages. So the first investment we made in a EV truck startup in UK. Thereafter, we definitely also invested into a two-wheeler startup.
Yes.
Kapil is sitting here.
Right.
Thereafter, we started investing into other technologies, but primarily Kalyani Group and Bharat Forge, we have been a B2B company.
Right.
So that is our DNA, and we wanted to be staying there. But when the market migrates, being a player of significance across the world,
Absolutely.
we wanted to retain our share in the markets. So that was the primary driver. And then in the EV kit, we see there are technologies, Prasad just mentioned, the powertrains, but yeah, we decided power electronics will have a very important, significant role in the whole EV kit.
Yeah.
So made a JV in Germany with a significant player there, 50-50, but basically we were trying to fast forward the technology learning curve. And thereafter we made one more invest in Californian-based traction drive company. And there we are getting again some cutting edge technologies in India. Primary reasons were not just retaining our market share in the markets, automotive, CV and PASCAR, but also I think we want to be a player of significance and a player of choice with the OEMs across country and globe. But also Atmanirbhar Bharat plays a big part into our visioning in the management of Kalyani Group. So we wanted to do more in India and get the technology fast forward, but basically we are also investing big time into developing homegrown technologies. So what we have been investing primarily is in the 350 upward space. So we have some technologies already, for example, a DC-DC converter. We have 650, 800 volt homegrown, already certified. That's the IP that we built in-house, going into the trucks and buses. So likewise, we are doing homegrown technology, but also doing a fast forward on the technology curve.
Let me bring in Detlev in. Detlev, I mean, floor is open for you. Anything that you'd like to ask.
Yeah, no, definitely. Great stories from your companies, how you build the companies and how you see the business. My interest coming from a technology vendor who serves the mobility industry, and I'm intentionally used the word mobility because I believe there's a shift going on broader and far beyond what automotive is. My interest is in understanding how you see the use of technology we supply to you as a vendor differently to the incumbent industry, running a startup, behaving like a startup. How do you see this changing, and what can we do as a technology vendor to serve you better in the future with more agile workflows, better ways of getting ahead of your competitors and competing against an incumbent in the industry? So this is my interest. So how do you see the use of technology for design, engineering and manufacturing changing, and how do you apply this in your workflows?
Now, should we start with Mr. Kohli himself? I mean, life cycles are shorter, challenge of funding. I mean, you have a unique case of legacy player actually funding your endeavor, but I think from majority of the players, cash is going to be a very critical element when actually scale and volume is going to be a challenge. So,
and the race is on, I would say.
Yes.
We are in the middle of a race.
Yeah. So this is again, so thank you for the question. This is a great question. How do you fast forward and how do you really see
role
that,
of technology?
Yeah. So I think there is a topic, again, one of the members here on the desk knows where I'm coming from, but innovation to commercialization. How do you fast forward the innovations to really see commercialization is done fast enough? That is one topic. But also I think one of the other pieces that if we see as a, let's say, EV fraternity here, I'm coming straight into the challenges. So there are so many challenges that we also face in our worlds, but what is the biggest one? And I would see supply chain, how we can address the supply chain, which not just brings in the adoption faster in various segments. Yes, two-wheelers and three-wheelers, especially passenger carriers, they have seen faster adoptions, but there are other segments where we are still not having the numbers which are in double digit. So supply chain is one of the biggest challenges, but again, this is a circular question where unless we really get the supply chain, especially if we see the rare earth or we see the cells per se, not the whole pack, the competitiveness and the acquisition cost, which are attractive, there are visions that many OEMs or many organizations have. Can I be at the same price or acquisition cost of ICE? EV to ICE. So there are segments where it's a factor of maybe more than 2x, 3x, 4x. Sumit knows what I'm talking. So how do you get that down? And I think then comes the question, how do you sustain this, I don't know, the bottleneck to really get over that hump? And the money still keeps flowing or the funds are managed. So I would say innovation to commercialization, but commercialization will be a piece where you have to have the competitiveness address, and then it comes to the topic of supply chain. How do you address that? So it's actually all interconnected.
Absolutely.
If I can get in on this, because the word technology always confuses and excites me. I mean, being a CTO for me sometimes. I think the problem when you look at EV, we were talking about it briefly before we got into this session, is product lifecycle management, right? I mean, it's a huge topic even for general automobile, solution providers. Now you just think about a second life scenarios coming in, and then you are talking about what's the business proposition for a customer who's purchasing my vehicle. And you look at the product lifecycle management, not just ending with you delivering a product off your manufacturing end, but actually managing it through. And then the digital thread that you are talking about is not just about getting your systems engineering requirement to a product right, but actually connecting it back to your dealership, service, after sales. I don't think the tools right now, what I was explaining right at the start of the session, is I don't think that the tools that we have with respect to product lifecycle management understand the business disruptions that are opportunities that are available for OEMs, startups, even vendors, to be very frank. I think that's one area where it's not really solved by conventional players yet, according to me. Because I mean, I've lived this life for the last 25 years. I've seen everything evolve in terms of what you call as state of art. Now I am building something grounds up, and I'm weaving a digital thread through it, and I'm struggling to get to the last part of the thread tied in when I look at what happens when my customer really wants to actually sell the vehicle back to me, or sell the battery back to me, right? I mean, how does everything come together from him in terms of convenience? And as a OEM, is a PLM tool available for me to weave through this digital thread? The rest of the challenges, be it power electronics, machines, I mean, all of this in terms of supply chain according to me, it will boil down to a challenge on the material, because the cost finally is the volume of material, and the rest of it is all in terms of IP that you put as an overhead, software or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So this decade is also going to see the next 10 years is not just going to be data, AI that people keep thinking about. It's going to be a huge disruption in materials, alternative materials, not just for lightweighting, including the thermal cycling, I would say retarders that you use inside the pack. You will see a big change in terms of the kind of polymers that you're going to deal with. So is there enough information available with the analytical tools to bring these materials in to be really able to deliver a value drive to the end customer? That means X material is getting me a 2X supply chain challenge. I know there is a Y material which is possible. Is there a digital twin for the material that will enable me to accelerate this as a product? So from a technology piece, I think these are two things which are, if we see that these are solved, a lot of problems around these tables right now is going to be sorted out.
Let me repeat it with my words just to make sure I completely understood. So you say that the existing tools, typical OEMs, traditional incumbent OEMs used in the past are not suited for the future. You need a system which is much more open and can go far beyond the current workflow. I mean, we all know traditional PLM system implementation ended up in PDM installations because it was too complex. How can you go even beyond your own company? How can you go into a life cycle of retirement of cars, tracing, tracking, replacement of materials for the future, etc. So this is where you have a concern and say what you need is an open system where you, in the worst case, can build something on yourself because nobody else thinks about it.
Correct.
Right.
Anybody else?
I would like to add. This is actually a very core challenge which we have went through, and also I have even observed this in a lot of other startups somewhere around the same progress we are. It is grossly underestimated. The challenge I'm about to tell is basically the engineer and tool relation. The software, the whatever is being used. The engineer tool relation is actually grossly underestimated on how much big role it plays in the faster development process. So what actually, if I want to explain a brief more about it, basically when we initially started, there are a lot of options. We don't have a lot of legacy data with us. We are starting new. And we are starting with a clean slate, so it means that there are a lot of options for us to choose outside in the market. So typically when we are starting up, we get a lot of product demos from a lot of companies, and we generally tend to try which actually suits me. But we always, the people who are actually leading the teams, generally we always see from, we always keep a tab more on the external risks that are involved, external inefficiencies, but there is a huge inefficiency internally, which is the tool and engineer relation. So what generally happens is, especially for startups like us, we cannot hire very experienced people in the beginning stages when we are developing. So we have to rely on freshers to 3 to 4 years experience engineers. So, and these are the individuals who are in the early stage of the career. So it means that they have not, they did not generate any expertise in any specific tool. So at the same time, you are getting engineers from different companies, different backgrounds. They come with different tool backgrounds. Someone wants to do only CATIA, someone wants to do only Fusion. But one thing what we observed here is there's also a bit of a strong belief or strong alignment towards the software, and there are actually conversations within the team that happens which software has to be deployed in this in the organization. And even after you deploy the organization, there's a huge time that takes from a person to shift from one software to another software. That is where initially when we were working on different softwares, we actually came across Autodesk Fusion. From a different perspective, because the price was very affordable, we did not think that it is very capable in the first impression, right? So, but
you're
when
losing
we actually
your opportunity to negotiate again.
So I didn't want to talk. Let me clarify one thing. I never paid him, and I don't want to talk about products.
Where is the camera?
So actually what happened is when we onboarded people, Autodesk had a huge community of engineers who actually started using the Fusion 360 based out of passion, pure passion, not based on any directive that you have to use this. So that the engineer tool relationship is what, that's what I'm talking about. The people, the engineers who actually use a tool out of passion, who actually, there's a huge community of Autodesk Fusion 360 where people collaborate, they share their models, especially students. And we observed that when we did a small internal survey of people who came from that background and people who came from a typical, big packages background, especially I'm talking more of about our startup at the specific scale we were in. The efficiencies of the team who had a very personal relation with the tool actually far more efficient and far more ahead in their work. So that's one of the major things that we observed. Any forceful deployment of a software which we better negotiated towards the whole team is something that will definitely result in a very big inefficiency and very unpredictable problem at the later stage. So I think that is something that I want to highlight as a big challenge, the engineer and tool relation, which has to be carefully tracked and taken care of. Yeah. Sorry, I took a lot of time, but yeah,
no,
I just want to tell you.
It's great input. I strongly believe that people play an essential role in that thing. Whatever you do, you start a new company, you run an existing company, you need to take your people with you. Is this something that is special for you in an EV space because you are up to a totally new journey? That's an interesting one.
I mean, one thing that I would like to say here is I completely second what Prasad said. But if you look across the cross-section, Uday closed about 2 to 3 years, Prasad closed about 5 to 6 years, Parikshit closed about 7 years, and Kapil closed about 9, 10, 11 years, right? So some odd numbers are stacking up. But just imagine what they've done, and similarly on this side as well. They've tried to perfect that tech, which, oh, by the way, is already commoditized, right? I mean, why did something that took us 150 years to perfect, the ICE engines, all of a sudden so many OEMs are coming up? Because there is a democratization of technology that's happening. So, but the good thing is it's not taking that long. It's not taking 150 years. It's taking 3 years in his case, 6, 7, 9 years. But the thing for you, Mr. Detlev, would be, how do we reduce it even further? If we were to deploy tools, let's say in motor design, let's say in controller design, let's say in battery design, club it with Autodesk and do it in such a way that the price is not a problem. You look at a democratized price and you'll see the scale going out of the roof.
What is needed for you to cut the time even further? Yeah? Because I strongly believe in collaboration, being able to do as much as possible on the same data, not sending files around and tracking files instead of tracking your workflows. So what is, from your point of view, what would help you to be even faster?
So
Nilesh had a point here.
I actually had something very relevant to this. So I think automotive softwares, design softwares, have been developed as the legacy players had their requirements over the past few decades. I think legacy players started on drafting on the sheets, and then when the software came in, they already had their products, they already had their processes in place, they already had their teams in place. So in a way, softwares followed a existing structure. But the new age companies or the new age development is not necessarily following this path or this workflow like the legacy players. An example which I find is very relevant is we went through an IT revolution 2 decades ago in India, and we had a startup in maybe every other street of Pune, serving a customer in a US or European market. And the reason for that was the cost to entry or the entry barrier was very low. I mean, I could do a certification in JavaScript, and I could start developing tomorrow. That's not the case with the tools of automotive yet. I mean, I believe Fusion is an exception. So companies have to find a way to at least make the entry barrier lower and find a way to get their revenues later in the journey as the company starts to make revenue. So a more collaborative way of revenue sharing, I think, will be a very good thing. Second thing I want to talk about is data interoperability. Again, legacy players, the way they were operating was they were all in their own islands. A Maruti with its vendors do not want a Tata to know what they're working on. So the data would go from Maruti to the vendor, the product would come in, and that's it. But today we are working with 20 vendors. We're talking to 30 more about future products and developments. So the interfaces between the software, the file formats, the file sharing is still very, the chain is broken. So we need to find a way to create interfaces so that multiple tools can collaborate easily, data can be shared easily, the data can be, I mean, I think we are at a place where cloud computation and storage is not a problem anymore. I think it's more of an interest or a push that is needed in this direction, so that more and more players from the different part of the ecosystem can come together and the data can be collaboratively used between them.
I believe you're spot on. Our vision is that data has to sit at the center, regardless where it comes from. But you need to have a capability to share it and collaborate on that data. The ordering system might be different, because they have different needs in different areas, and suppliers, they might sit on the other side of the world, and you need to collaborate with them in an efficient and easy way, not via a file transfer or sending emails around.
Anyone else?
So I think one. I mean, just to answer, I think you were asked a question in terms of how can we, what are the challenges for faster adaptation for technology in terms of shortening the cycle? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I believe one of the, if you go back to what Aditya was speaking about, we generate, I mean, close to 20-30 lakhs of engineers every year out of universities, and these are, I mean, I would not just say the IITs alone or the premier ones alone are producing good talent. There is vast variety of talent coming in from every nook and corner of India. Okay, and how prepared are they with respect to adoption of these tools? And it comes back to how acceptable is the tool for the new generation.
Yeah.
When you bring in a Siemens, or I mean, I would not take names, but I would say a decade-old solution, okay, which has been working in automotive because of the way the product development was happening. because of the way the drafting was happening and how you have enabled the life cycle there. Now you are essentially asking the same tool to be learned at colleges for them to be ready for challenges of the next generation. And cloud computation and the way the digital part of it is working is diametrically opposite to what this is. So you're essentially forcing a kid to watch a black and white TV while he's exposed to OTT on his next generation mobile. Okay, so do they appreciate it, first of all? Because as you said, for engineers to adapt, they need to appreciate it.
Correct.
Right? I think that's where there is a fundamental challenge. Because the moment the talent which is coming out is ready, and they are able to connect back to this, you will have a huge productivity in my life in terms of how quickly am I able to realize products with the tools that are coming in.
Yeah.
So I think this is one area where, Autodesk Fusion is one element, but how are we collaborating with the universities to get these relevant tools in? And then the adoption becomes a more meaningful approach for because you're talking to a guy who is 18-year-old about a tool which was 30 years old.
You're speaking to my heart, and we have so many examples where students apply our technology because they like it more. It's more to their lifestyle, to their way of thinking compared to this very rigid old way. And we can work together on that. We need your support to influence the universities.
So the point I was getting to is it's not just the premier universities, but it is about with the cloud and the digital environment available, how do you make it accessible, downgrade to, especially a level where a Java expertise was built 20 years back.
Exactly.
That is the need of the hour.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up, Nilesh.
Yeah. So it's a 6-level debug problem. So you don't start solving it the way usually. So startups happen when you see a gap. Correct. So I think Autodesk or anybody who will also start the same way is will have to see a gap in the system. As I think he mentioned one gap. He's mentioning one gap, and there are large gaps. The only problem today is because there is so much information, all the above superficial problems are solved. The solution is much more deeper.
The root cause analysis.
To students.
The root cause analysis has to be done on that. I think there are valid points which all the members have told. I think you should definitely look at it.
The experience is sometimes baggage. So I'm happy to get a new guy who's coming with a good tool exposure, will disrupt. He'll be talking my language in startup.
Now, before I let Mike in, I want to get Uday's view because, in a matter of 3 years, you've also got patents and all, and you've heard what everyone had to say. Just bring in your bits about.
Yeah, so we also face the same problem only. So, firstly, hiring a talent is a big task nowadays because when you are moving to electronics side, as you know, so many of the colleges are not teaching what is being used in the market right now. So what is going in the market. So they are basically teaching the basic stuff which is going on. So the students who are very eager to know about the knowledge, they are basically discovering by themselves that how to work on certain microprocessors or certain things. And then when we hire, so when we put up a post for hiring, so we have to certainly mention that he should know this software. And even if the guy is good, but still he doesn't know how to simulate on certain things. So he is of no use to us. So there is no collaborative effort that everything should be done on one thing. Like for example, you go for Dassault Systems, SolidWorks, and MATLAB, and all those things. And when you go for a simulation for electronics, for designing of PCB, so there are certain things that work on SolidWorks, and there are certain things that work on PCB designing tools. So there is a gap in this thing that we have to bring together so that we can hire a talent which has the knowledge, but he doesn't know certain software.
So basically this electromechanical element that he mentioned about, so I think that gap needs to be bridged going forward, given we are discussing on EVs, right?
Yeah, it's basically multi-physics, not just electromechanics.
Exactly.
Multidiscipline. I call it multidiscipline. We need to bring more and more disciplines together. And regarding the students, I believe there's no just single answer. There's typically no easy answer for complex problems, but one potential approach to this is community. I believe community is extremely important, and we see that introducing new technologies to students, etc., the best way to get access to them and get their hearts is building a community. We have all those student communities who build race cars and win those contests with the Hyperloop and everything. And it's amazing to see what those students can do. It's really amazing. It's mind-boggling to see a student community build a boring machine, boring not as in boring, but boring holes or boring a tunnel, which is faster than any boring machine the industry built in the last 150 years. It's mind-boggling. Yeah?
Anything from you, Parikshit?
Say one more thing which we feel is like how we want to cut down the time for our development. Even the learning time which is required to learn that software, to start using it, that has to be cut down. So it has to be simplified now. The way means how from robots we have come to cobots. So no more programming languages are required. They can be easily managed. Similarly, the softwares also, if they can start using some sort of a different way of thinking, so that the person who is learning is able to adapt it in a very faster manner, maybe in 2 months, 3 months, then it will be much more better.
And you are in the age of AI, so I think it should be possible.
So I think the way IT services or the IT specifically, like IT as in the information technology was democratized or was it drove crazy the younger generation. I think the engineering services also should follow the same path. I think because I remember when 2014 we were building a bus. Engineers coming to this project itself was a challenge, because people mocked at us creating a bus like so. We didn't have homologation in India, so there were so many challenges on those days. And today, 2024, I can see startups coming up. You were into motorcycles, I guess, and then you came into motors. So there's so many things, right? We had only 4 players initially. Today we have so many companies who are coming out, making scooters, cycles, and 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers. So that's itself, I think, the industry will have to take cognizance of that and start democratizing this.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned AI. It's fast. It's a very important topic, and we offer a few things on AI. But AI is important to understand. An AI need to get trained. It doesn't work out of the box. If you buy an AI out of the box, it has the brain of a newborn, unless you train it on somebody else's data. But you don't want somebody else buying an AI which is trained on your data. So this is the paradigm we need to think about. And then here we are, data again. So having data accessible, structured, and everybody access is key. So this is a starting point again, even for AI. It's just a point that I wanted to make because, and I have a few examples I can share. We work on AI and AI workflows, but it all starts with data. Having the data so you can train your AI based on your design DNA, on your engineering problems, of your manufacturing process, etc.
The good thing over there is, let's say your product, which is AI'd, has gotten tuned to the DNA of a company, then the next generation of fresh engineers would get adapted to it much faster.
Exactly, that's the point. That's exactly the point. It's AI is new. It's just an augmentation of an engineer. It's just another tool which helps you to be more efficient. It cannot. My strong belief.
You need to build the heuristics to help.
Exactly.
AI to actually talk what you want.
Yeah. Now let me ask that one last question. We've had a very engaging discussion. I mean, let me take a bird's eye view. At the end of it, the core of it is business. And one of the big challenge that I started with is return on investment, how to be profitable, how to be viable when you're facing behemoths who have thousands of crores being backed up. But what you guys have is agility, speed, and at the same time, interest from green investors. So I'd like to understand from each one of you, just final comments, about how do you hit that viability when the scale is suboptimal, and how do you ensure through the use of technology or with the support of an investor? I mean, the life cycles are shortening, as Prasad mentioned, and managing life cycles. And if a product fails in the first 1 month, the effort of the last 3 years just completely goes waste. So I'd like to get each one of you in the order. I mean, just the viability. I mean, how do you get viability and stay in the business in this dynamic world where return on investment cycles are much shorter?
When I entered this business, and we obviously look at the legacy players' balance sheet and the P&L and always look very interesting. I never thought that this would be a burning industry, like any other telecom or e-commerce or something. But surprisingly, a product industry having a lot of burning to take the market share. So it's always the question between a market share versus the EBITDA. You can profitable even at 100 crore, you can be lost at even 5,000 crore. Absolutely. So it's about what is your strategy. You want to be profitable, you want to be market share, and what is the time horizon you have?
I think one word is differentiation. Now, differentiation can be of many types. So I think what Hemant was talking about was differentiation in capital.
Right.
So if you have access to capital, you play on that. We didn't have that. So we said we'll differentiate on the product. So when we were starting, like we made a very, very conscious choice that we will not do two-wheelers and three-wheelers. We started around 2019 conceptualizing, and somewhere we felt that at this point, after 5 years, it will be very hard to differentiate in the market. And so we chose a slightly adjacent market, slightly new territory, a new product concept, and a harder to enter, so that entry barriers for newcomers even remains harder after 5 years.
It's the volumes, the scale that once make sure that the business and finally the balance sheet is kind of looking good is what would kind of finally eventually sustain.
You're so much at the mercy of the external environment, right? I mean, we were discussing earlier about the need for subsidy till the time the scale is reached, till the time the localization happens. So it's a hard act.
It's a hard act, and that's why, I mean, sometimes having good founders behind you, having people who can trust your vision, who can trust the differentiation that Nilesh is talking about, can stay with you and make you kind of see the course of the time.
Yeah.
It's very important to have those guys with you as well. Right. So it's a mix of both.
Yeah, Aditya, if I could bring you in.
Yeah, I would like to talk about mass market commercial vehicles segment, to be specific. So 3 things majorly. We cannot afford to be a one product company. We cannot bet everything on one model, one product.
Diversify.
We have to diversify at the launch itself. The last one is be more horizontally integrated, especially in this segment. That is, rely on the experts or the best in class for hard technologies, and be more horizontally integrated company. So these are the 3 things.
Really interesting 3 points.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah. Mr. Satyasai?
We are focused on to our electric cycles. The reason why is we are trying to carve a niche out of it. Electric cycles, again, we are talking about a battery swapping thing in our cycles, which is a major pain point in the metros. Right. Our batteries are maybe of a laptop size, laptop weight, which we can carry. So, government initiatives, again, I wouldn't say subsidies, but government initiatives like what they did with the CFL versus the LED bulbs or the solar which they are pushing. Maybe, that push kind of thing, what CESL is doing with. So, such kind of initiatives obviously will definitely increase the volumes which we are so-called talking about. And Nexu is very much predominantly focused on a complete made in India product, because we know that
so costs are in check.
Yeah, the costs are in check, and we are slowly and steadily going into a good viable and sustainable
business.
Yeah.
Right. Kapil, holding power, you've been holding on to it, and you also have backing.
So we've seen both the cycles. I think the best funding is the customer gives you money.
Good one.
But I think for a hardware startup, it's a fundamental problem. So you want to solve a vertical stack. So you want to develop technology, and then when there is no customer to pay, so you have to have an external backer to do that. And once you've got to a scale, and then you might actually look at a customer and say, oh, you are supposed to buy this at a price. The price is not defined. There's a lot of ups and downs in subsidies, so it doesn't have a very linear path.
Right.
But I think the fundamental is if you are building technology and the customer likes it, it's solving a bigger problem for him, and he is ready to pay for it, then it is a much better ask to go for an external, internal, however you look at funding.
So customer at the heart of it and ensure that there's value.
I think problem solving is the heart of it. And
Problem
customer,
solving.
and then the customer sort of migrates and says, oh, it's solving my problem and then I would love to buy this.
Right.
And I would love to pay you hard-earned money that I have acquired during
So you got the formula now?
So the biggest problem is, I think Indian customers are very demanding, and the technology that we're building is almost like the best in class for the world. So you're not, if you look
It's not
at
meant for just specific kind of customers.
So what you're doing is you actually build, if you ask me, we are building a car on 2 wheels. That is what the customer wants. So he wants Apple Auto, everything that you could imagine for a price of a motorcycle, and also cheaper than your last ICE engine, which is like a tough problem to solve.
Right.
But you also have to migrate him to and say, you have to pay for this technology.
Right. If I could bring you in.
For us, we have adopted a policy of being a little bit fluid manner, so that we can be flexible enough to change ourselves in a speedy manner.
Right.
So if things are not required, drop it immediately. It should not be like, since we have it, we have to carry it ahead.
Right.
If the customer wants it, we have it. If the customer says no, we should be able to drop that and adopt what the customer wants in a speedy manner without burning a hole in our pocket.
Right.
So we are trying to develop our platforms,
Quick
our
decision making.
organization in the same way, so that the quick decision making and quick change in the product happens.
So modularity is very, very important.
Yes.
The use of technology modularity.
Yeah.
Right.
And this we are achieving with getting the right partners along with us, whether they be technical, whether they be supply chain.
That has to be their DNA as well.
Exactly.
They'll be able to respond to you
Respond to us faster.
Faster.
Yeah.
Sir?
We are essentially building platforms. We have kept customer at center to deliver mobility solution. EV happens to be the way to do it, but mobility solution is the main focus that we have. And I mean, one topic I want to really address is, having stayed in bigger, companies with bigger purses, it's not always, it's an internal VC pitch versus an external VC pitch. Nothing changes. You need to have a compelling business case. Okay, to unlock funds, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from...
Not that it comes very easily in
Exactly.
big
Access to funds is basically how compelling is your business case and how forward-looking it is.
Right.
You can't create a one-product pony.
Yeah.
You have to create a brand.
Right.
And creating a brand is a big deal.
Tech is obviously important for going forward. So as the technology is evolving, so we have to start developing new products side by side as we are scaling. So that the customers' requirements that are coming fresh, we can address at certain level. So obviously volumes are also important, but we have to focus on the technology as well, and obviously diversification should be there. So being a motor controller startup, just referring that, so we should not be limited to just mobility. We can be into industrial space as well. We can be into agri-tech space.
You've already gone in defense, which is fantastic.
So we are also going into agri-tech sector as well, which is in huge demand right now, because agri-tech is moving into either retrofit kits or either they are moving into fully electric vehicles, dealers, where basically they are replacing their daily usage bulls and all everything.
Right.
So this should be there that we should focus on. Obviously, as I agree with him that the tech should be there, and if you solve the customer's problem, the money will be obviously be there.
Right.
So that I agree with him.
Right. Mr. Kohli, final comments from your end?
I think a lot has been said, and I would, coming from legacy business and background, I must say, when we are actually into a scale-up mode, and startup life is not easy, number one. But scaling up also has, it brings in its own set of different challenges. Yeah. So I would also agree on one part, while we say differentiation, we say technology but I think it's a combination of many things which Sumit was mentioning. He said 2, and I would say maybe more. Yeah. So there is differentiation required. Innovation is very, very important, but innovation has many facets. So technology and product innovation, that is what you are bringing to the customer, solving customer topics or market needs, whatever it is. Right. But at the same time, but I have a view, because you have scarcity, or maybe you need to also work on, when you're scaling up, you need capital. My take is, you got to stay focused and see whatever you are doing, at least you make a mark. Either you are building a brand or a technology or whatever which customer appreciates and is willing to pay.
Right.
So the value proposition is when the customer is paying for what you say is the value.
Right.
So there are multiple things actually, but innovation, agility, I would say we have to. At the same time, prioritization is the other piece that I would also focus on.
So fantastic discussion. I mean, I had a great time. I really appreciate each one of you here for bringing in your amazing insights into, we are a learning platform, and we'd be happy to kind of bring your message out to the world. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.